Hello and welcome to everyone who has come to this event and to those who are watching the recording. Productivity is important for any business actually, so that you can use all your available resources, including labor, time, and capital, in a way that maximizes your efficiency and profitability. But also by increasing productivities, you become more competitive while you're reducing costs. So this is a very important, but also sometimes overlooked topic. Today, we're going to deal with lots of psychology, specifically productive mindset and some concrete tips for productivity. I believe that you will walk away with lots of key takeaways, including some new attitudes and specific approaches that will help you improve yours, but also your team's productivity. I would like to start this event with Tim Ferriss's statement, focus on being productive instead of busy. This is basically what we often see nowadays, that some people pretend to be basically productive, and it's important to recognize this, to know the difference between busy and being productive. Being busy means that you are constantly engaged in activities, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are making progress towards your goals. On the other hand, being productive means that you are focused on completing tasks that are important and that will help you achieve your goals. In today's world of instant communication and all these turbulences, we have become somehow drawn to urgency. It pulls us in and gives us some false sense of productivity. But if you have systems in place that helps us organize our work so that we dissipate the stress and work with more reflection, focus, and energy, we will be, of course, more productive. And a fun fact, did you know that it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to refocus on a task after a distraction? Yes, distractions are basically one of the biggest enemies of productivity, because they can also lead to more stress, decreased motivation, and lower quality of work. So basically, that's why we're dealing with this topic today. So what are we going to talk about today more? It's about the productivity and fighting its enemies first. Then smarter goals as the starting point for increasing productivity, defining priorities and better managing your time, good all organization, and a few words about our upcoming workshop that also deals with productivity. And who am I to have the right to talk about this topic? My job purpose is business and personal progress strategist. Yes, you heard it well. It's called the job purpose now, not the job function anymore. You might also introduce it in your organization. Before, I used to work as a teacher, translator, project manager, operations manager, business developer, managing director. So lots of roles in the 20 years of my career. And by education, I'm a linguist, executive MBA, and a professional coach. In this live, you can ask your questions anytime and share your ideas. Also, while I'm speaking, two of my colleagues will be with me also to give all the answers. And you can also use other emoticons for non-verbal communication. Luckily, we help them also to satisfy our need for non-verbal communication. Okay, at the beginning, let me clear certain notions that lead to confusion about productivity. Because sometimes people think that productivity equals time management or efficiency, but it doesn't. They are all related concepts, of course. We need them all in order to be productive. But basically, productivity is the amount of work that is completed in a given amount of time. It is basically a measure of how effective you are at using your time and resources to achieve your goals. On the other hand, time management is the process of planning and controlling how you spend your time. Okay, time management involves setting goals, prioritizing tasks, and schedule your time in a way that will help you achieve your goals. And thirdly, efficiency is the ability to achieve a desired outcome with minimal waste of resources. So basically, it's a measure of how well you are using your time, energy, and other resources to complete a task. Okay, I hope that now it's clearer. But what else is needed to be productive? So it's not only the time management and efficiency. First of all, we need to eliminate the distractions. I already mentioned them at the beginning, but it's the first thing that we have to fight. Other aspects that are extremely important in becoming more productive is the goal setting. Because without a clear direction, destinations where we're going, productivity becomes pointless. Then it's important to set your priorities properly. Prioritization is basically the process of ranking your tasks and activities in orders of importance. If we cannot do it, then we can delegate it. It's also pretty difficult, because we often think that we are the best person for the task. Of course, time tracking to know how much time basically we spend on tasks, and task management, using tools and systems that help you plan, organize, and track your tasks. Okay. So, as I mentioned, the enemies of productivity. First of all, the biggest enemies are multitasking and inefficient teamwork. Multitasking basically is a kind of a myth. It isn't efficiency. By doing so many tasks, you're basically fragmenting your focus only. So it's not managing your tasks. The best approach for productivity is to do one thing well and then go to another. Inefficient teamwork is another big enemy. If we have a team that has no clear goals, it has no clear roles, tasks, duties, and responsibilities, but as well as effective communication, and it can all be also counterproductive, not only inefficient. But interestingly enough, in the top 10 workplace distractions, according to ZPS research, belong, checking social media, reading news websites, and chatting with coworkers as the first three. But also you can see, for example, that making drinks, smoking breaks, texting, eating snacks, making food, making non-work calls, and searching for new jobs are basically all important workplace distractions that need to be handled at the very beginning. You need to see, the reasons why these things are happening. So by addressing the root causes, let's say the psychology, and not just eliminating the symptoms, is crucial here. And this is why I said at the very beginning that psychology plays an important role here. So basically, how to fight the enemies of production. First of all, the first approach be to know exactly your enemy, because it is there for a reason. There is something missing. It's either the motivation of the employees or the lack of control. If somebody is checking their social media all the time, you have to see what's going on with that person, or with yourself. If you are constantly, on your Facebook or Instagram, you should be honest with yourself about it, and try to find the productive equivalents, or eliminate all those reasons. Maybe you need a big change. Another psychological enemy is the belief in the ability to change. There are so many people who believe that they cannot change, that this is the way they are. They used to do it this way, and basically they don't want to embrace new, let's say, routines or productivity hacks that help them be more efficient. They might think, that they're just built to work this way and kind of like to live, and they think that they thrive in their chaos and clutter. But basically, this is not true. Good habits can be learned, or even better, they can become a routine. Then the next enemy is the so-called analysis paralysis. But this analysis paralysis does not mean that we do not analyze at all. Analysis, of course, is good, but what is meant by this is that we basically somehow try to curb over-analyzing. Over-analyzing and overthinking is detrimental or toxic, toxic and self-toxic. Define basically where you can put the line and switch the roles or hats, of a dreamer, executor, and realist, and see where you are. Then the perfectionism track, that is called, better done than the cure for which is better done than perfect. This means that you basically don't follow the standards of productivity that are impossible to meet. That you do the tasks even if you feel you can't do them perfectly, and test your reaction afterwards, and basically to enjoy the learning process, not just the results. Another cure is to develop good habits. We all know that all habits die hard, but habits can be changed, habits can be learned. I would suggest here, if you have these problems, that you read Atomic Habits or Tiny Habits, which are fantastic books that help you develop a good habits routine. Then, of course, it's the discipline. It's, of course, hard to develop, as we all know from childhood, but if we develop it in parallel with other disciplines, and if it's aligned with our values, then it makes much more sense. If you value open communication and freedom, and then try to see how discipline can be fulfilled through these values, then it's different. Another medicine is to maintain consistency. Consistency is basically even more important than discipline. If we're consistent, we're gonna get to our goals. So if we are, let's say, focused too much on discipline or intensity of our work, then we can get easily tired and get out of focus. So rather be consistent, so that you don't, reach your goal or the top gasping for breath. And of course, one of the best medicines that is holistic or kind of a panacea is the system. So always upgrade your system of work. What's even more important than a consistency, discipline, and habits is basically developing the rules for your system, upgrading your system, tweaking it based on feedback, based on real life experiences. Okay, now the focus. Focus, that is lack of focus and concentration has basically become a disease, almost a pandemic in this modern society. So for quick brainstorming, to set yourself up for productivity and success, so in order to get purpose, motivation, and deadline and assistance, to be more productive, we've prepared these 5 questions here that you can put on a sticky note and have them all the time while you are preparing, to be productive. So the first question is, what task do you want to complete actually? By when? How can I achieve that? Who can help me with this task? Why is this task important? Okay, sounds productive, doesn't it? And speaking of productivity, we said that the first and most important thing is to set goals. So we know our direction, where we are going, but what are the most effective methods for goal setting? here we like to use the SMART-tier approach. I'm sure you've heard of SMART, but SMART-tier helps you get more successful and smarter. So basically, for any success, goal is the foundation, is the starting point. Here in this framework, you also have very practical questions that you can ask yourself at a goal setting process. For example, what exactly do you want to achieve? How will I know when I have achieved it? Is this goal realistic and achievable? Is this goal important to me and my overall goals? When exactly do I want to achieve this goal by? What will make me feel confident, persistent, and energetic? Who or what will be affected positively or negatively? Who will be involved in the final approval, and how will they vote? Okay, I hope these questions really help you set a perfect goal for you. Now, the next important step in improving productivity is to see basically where you are now. Okay, so to know where you're going, you have to see where you are at this point. So for this purpose, it's good to make a screening of your 2 weeks, for example, of where and how much time you spend on activities such as important tasks, extinguishing fires, people management, lunches, social media, personal email, let's say administration. But you can also add smoking if you have smoking breaks, chit-chatting, personal growth activities, and then sum up all the times, then add in another row, let's say the future time you want to spend. And if the difference between the time now and your future time has a minus sign, then it means that these activities should be addressed urgently. Okay, so now once you know where you spend your time and how and what you want with your time, it's time for defining priorities, because we are all overwhelmed, with different tasks that urgent, not urgent, important, not important. And in this case, the notorious Eisenhower matrix comes in, So we divide here tasks into 4 quadrants, tasks that are important and urgent, important and not urgent, not important and urgent, and not important and not urgent. Okay. But you can also see in this slide, there are some tasks that are designed, that have, let's say, designations fulfillment, demand, delusion, and distraction. These are basically Tony Robbins's classifications, where he says that, we are supposed to focus on the fulfillment tasks first, and we have to make the room for the fulfillment tasks obligatorily in one day. And that basically 65% of our day should be devoted to fulfillment activities. Important and urgent are demand, so you have to do it. These are the things. The crises, the pressing deadlines, some emergencies. It has to be done, or somebody else can do it instead of us. The delusion part should be, let's say, around 10%, and the distraction only 5%. So this all looks nice, but how else, can we make it better? Well, in this case, you can always use the 4Ds principle. Do, delay, delegate, or delete. Once you have the list of once you categorize your activities, use these 4 activities, what to do with them. But this matrix, Eisenhower matrix, doesn't actually work for some people. These are, it's very common and popular in the business world for individual, but also for team prioritization. But somehow people fail to introduce it, and the first reason is basically our comfort craving brain. we all have this primal instinct for security, and then it clashes with all the demands of this constantly evolving world, but we all somehow want to discomfort and a bit of laziness, but it's not possible. So we have to overcome this internal conflict, by acknowledging the allure of procrastination and how it basically affects our productivity. This is where self-talk about what we want to accomplish comes in handy. The second reason is the lack of clarity. If we don't know exactly what we're going to do in one day or 1 month, this is basically the poor starting point for productivity. And the third reason would be how we perceive urgent and important, so that we make clear definition of parameters for urgent and important. You see, after talking about productivity this much, you probably won't like to hear this, but in order to improve productivity, you have to invest a lot of time, energy, and probably some money, but then it will pay off in the long run. So how to apply the matrix in emails that are, let's say, kind of most problematic in this context? You can categorize them according to the matrix by using the colors, or by creating subfolders in your email client. But don't forget to use it also with all the tasks, if you're using Outlook, for example. What also can help you to become more productive is what to do with activities that last less than 5 minutes. Here, you can apply 3 principles. The one-touch principle, when something comes to you and you can do it in less than 2 minutes, you can do it now. This is, let's say, a summary of the one-touch principle. Then the 5-second rule. This was invented by Mel Robbins. In order to avoid procrastination, we just count backwards from 5 to 1 and do it. If you don't feel like doing something, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm doing it. And the third approach is the magical question, that I like to call it this way, is what's stopping me to do this right now? So oftentimes when you ask ourselves, what's stopping me to do this right now? Well, probably nothing. There are also some tools, that help us a lot to become more optimized and optimizing our work. For example, there are so many simple things that usually take a second or less, but if you sum up all the seconds in 1 month or in 1 year, you will see how much time you basically wasted, So you could, for example, introduce the automatic startup of all the tools that you need when you start working. For example, your email client, your apps, or the tools that you use at work, you just put them in your automatic startup. They open immediately. You avoid the first clicks at the beginning. Then make use of the keyboard and desktop shortcuts. Once you also collect those seconds in 1 year, it also accumulates, to a lot of hours. And of course, it's also advisable, to put all the activities in your Outlook calendar, in your tasks, in your MS To Do, and please use all the artificial intelligence, that you have at disposal, because especially if it's for free, to accelerate some of the tasks. Luckily, there is also this new Power Automate and Office script in Microsoft. That's much easier than, for example, the good old Visual Basic. It can also help you create some quick macros or scripts, just to avoid all those, let's say, repetitive tasks, and also to avoid to reduce the human error. I would also advise, once you have developed your own systems with free, then you go on to some paid tools such as Monday.com or Toggle Track for time tracking, or if you're in the translation business, let's say the be lazy solution. What also helps is that you switch your morning routine for the night routine or the evening routine, so that you prepare one day before you finish your work, for example, or in the evening, so that you don't have to feel stressed out in the morning. Another crucial elements that help you also in productivity are the deadlines that you set to yourselves. Also, that you break down all the tasks in manageable chunks, because you will feel pleasure due to completion, and you will feel one step closer to your goal. Then try to stick to your deadlines, please. As you start changing them, it becomes a bad habit easily, and schedule all your tasks, and even measure the time for it. In teams, in teamwork, so to put it, there is also a very nice and practical approach that's used in agile. It's called Moscow, but it was not named after Moscow as the city, but it stands for categorizing tasks in your app or in your collaborative workspace into those that are must-haves, should-haves, could-haves, and want-haves, so that you know what with tasks as priority. And another approach for teams that's also very practical is called the RICE. This is basically where you define priority by multiplying reach, impact, and confidence, and dividing it by effort. So reach means basically how many people will be affected, impact, how much it helps, confidence, how sure you are about the task, and effort, how hard it will be. So you give your, let's say, subjective grades to it, do the formula, and then you see, okay, the highest, let's say, number has higher priority. What's also good advice on improving productivity is the Brian Tracy's eat that frog principle. It means that you do the most demanding tasks and most important tasks in the morning, that you keep in mind your energy levels, when your energy levels are high, before lunch, after lunch, and so that you do the most difficult tasks, that you group them, and that you do, for example, administrative tasks in one chunk, and you get rid of them and move on to something more important. And of course, what's also important is to create your daily to-do lists. Some people like to use the paper, because they like to cross out the completed tasks. But there are so many apps that you can use nowadays. But please, be aware that before you use the apps, try to develop your routines by yourselves and what you have already. Then it will be easier to switch to the app. Always be clear as much as possible, and use the color coding, because it will help you, better visualize, how you complete tasks. And psychologically, it's also important to love your routine. First of all, ask yourselves, what's good about my routine? Because so many people don't like their routines, How does my routine make my life better? If you have the routine, you will have fewer decisions to make and more energy for important tasks. You will also be ready for more challenging choices because you won't have to think about, the routine. It's also important to be grateful for what you have, to have good sleep, and, as our grandma say, early birds catches the worm. You start early, your day, you will complete more. But also what's important is to plan your meals and wardrobe, because as with planning, how to spend your time, you may decide every day what you're going to wear, what you're going to eat for breakfast or lunch. So this can unnecessarily sap your energy resources, If you also organize your wardrobe into outfits and eat same or similar foods regularly, you will have everything prepared ahead of time. You will be better equipped when you are, I don't know, hit with decisions that require more thoughts, and in the end, you're going to work less, basically. Also, your co-workers, it's important to learn how to say no when you're not needed, and to show your trust by not intervening or micromanaging tasks, that you choose the right person for the job in the first place, so spend more time on choosing the right person, and delegate the low value tasks that really take away most of your time. And in a, let's say, a nutshell, as a message in the end for this is basically to live productively, that you know when to take time for yourself, that you reflect every day on the good and not so good things, in the morning and before you go to sleep, that you work on your self-esteem, because self-awareness, self-respect, self-talk is important to be productive, and basically to have a life. If you have a life, you will be more productive at work. And just a few words about our upcoming workshop that's called Boosting the Manager's Business Savvy. I would urge you to take advantage of the early bird to register, because it's only for 5 participants. It is specifically designed for PMs, VMs, and other, let's say, production and middle managers to hone their leadership skills that are rarely taught at universities, such as effective business communication, time management, planning, prioritization, delegation, motivation, etc. But also we will cover fundamentals of sales, marketing, and pricing. So basically that you can tap your potential for cross-selling and upselling. Okay, you see the prices here. Now, okay, 2 minutes more. I'm so sorry for this extension. I will send comments, but feel free to ask your questions also afterwards if you watch a recording. I hope that you have some links there now. And yes, thank you very much for attending. Hopefully you managed to get the key takeaways that I mentioned at the very beginning of this event. Thanks again, and see you soon. Bye-bye.